When my daughter told me she would leave our way of life for the man she loved, I smiled instead of crying. I still remember the shine on the kitchen counter, the steam from the kettle, the way the spoon tapped the cup like a small bell. Her voice did not shake. Mine did. She said, "Mama, I love him. I can't live a double life anymore." My fingers held the cup so tight I thought the handle would break. It was late afternoon. The window cast a square of light on the floor. The old prayer rug lay folded near the door. The call to prayer would come soon, the soft kind that reached us from the phone, not the loudspeakers from my childhood. I looked at that rug and at my girl, and I thought of the first time I taught her how to put her small hands together and say Bismillah. A memory and a pain arrived at the same time, like two guests who did not know each other. I wanted to pull her back with a mother's arms and a mother's words. I wanted to say, "No, this is wrong, better." But a quiet voice in me said, "Do not let anger speak." So I did what I learned to do. I asked her to sit. I poured tea. I listened. I prayed in my heart. She spoke about love, about freedom, about how she had felt like she was hiding. She did not say she stopped believing in God, only that she was tired of rules. Yet I heard a deeper meaning, a door closing, a path turning. This is the story of that day, and all the days that led to it. It is the story of my daughter and me. It is a story of love that cut me and still warmed me. It is a story of faith that bent but did not break. It is a story of patience, of trust, and of letting go when every part of me wanted to hold on. I could not stop her. But I learned how to stand, with tears, with prayer, with hope. If stories like this bring you comfort, please follow Voices of Fatima, like this video, and share it with someone who might need it. Would you attend your child's wedding if your heart was breaking? Tell me, in the comments. And where in the world are you listening from? I would love to know. My name is Salma. I am a mother, a widow, and an old woman with gentle hands and a soft voice. I have lived many years in this small apartment with the green curtains and the wooden table that wobbles a little. The kitchen smells like cardamom and soap. The walls hold frames with smiling faces, some in color, some a little faded. The clock in the hallway ticks in a steady way that comforts me when the night feels long. I grew up in a house where we woke before the sun. My mother's hands were always busy. She taught me how to roll dough with slow, sure movements and how to wash my heart clean with prayer. "Saber," she would say, touching my forehead. "Patience." She had lines near her eyes from smiling during hard times. My father was quiet but strong. He did not speak much, but I always felt safe when he was near. We had little money, but we had a lot of trust in God. That was our wealth. That was our map. I married young. My husband, Farid, had a laugh that filled the room. He would bring home flowers in a paper bag, even if they were small and looked tired, and he made them look rich by the way he placed them in a jar. When he said my name, I felt seen. Life was not easy. We moved for work. We started again and again. We made a home in a new country, with different skies and different streets, where the mosque was not a walk away but a drive. We learned to listen for the prayer in our hearts when the city was too loud to let us hear it outside. We had 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl. My sons were strong and sometimes stubborn. They tried to act like men before they were ready. They liked football and noisy jokes. My daughter was the youngest. Her name is Layla. She came into this world on a rainy day. The nurse placed her in my arms, and I saw a small face with wide eyes that seemed to be asking a question already. From the first hour, she was curious. She would turn her head toward any sound. She would reach for anything bright. She grew up with quick feet and a quick mind. When Layla was little, she would follow me around like a small model version of me. She held my scarf with her fingers. She watched me pray and tried to copy me. She knew the rhythm of our day: Fajr, tea, school, chores, evening meal, stories, sleep. She loved my stories. I told her the stories my mother told me and the stories of our family. I told her about the long road we had walked to get here. I told her that faith is like a lamp we carry. Sometimes the wind is strong, but the lamp can stay lit if you hold it close. Farid's health began to fail when Layla was 11. He had a soft way of hiding his pain. He did not want to worry us. He would say, "It is nothing, Salma," but his eyes would cloud and his steps would slow. The hospital visits grew frequent, the house grew quiet. The boys tried to be brave. They worked part-time jobs and came home tired. I learned how to read numbers on pill bottles and how to sit in waiting rooms without letting my fear take over. I remember the smell of those rooms, like bleach and paper. The day Farid died, the sky was very clear. I remember that because it felt wrong. How can the sky be so bright when a light in our house has gone out? Layla was 12. She stood next to me at the funeral with her hands cold in mine, and I kept squeezing them as if I could warm them with my will. People said kind words. They brought food. They hugged us. But when everyone left, the silence walked in and sat on our couch. It did not leave for a long time. Without Farid, I tried to fill the room with guidance. I became both mother and father. I became soft at 1 hour and firm at the next. I held the budget tight. I held the rules tight. I worried about my boys and their tempers. I worried about my girl and her heart. I reminded them to pray, to study, to be kind. I spoke about modesty, about limits, about what is wise and what is not. I thought I was being gentle, but sometimes my words were heavy. I did not always see it. Layla entered her teenage years during this storm. She grew taller, her hair got thicker, her questions got bigger. She asked me things I did not think to ask when I was her age. She wanted to know why we do what we do. She wanted to understand, not just obey. Sometimes I answered with stories. Sometimes I answered with rules. Sometimes, when I was tired or afraid, I said, "Because this is how it is." And I saw the door of her trust close a little. I did not know how to open it again. We lived near a small park with 2 swings that creaked. Layla would go there after school. She had a friend, Sarah, who was kind and serious. They did homework together and traded bracelets. Then in high school, new faces came, new voices, new worlds. Layla's world became bigger than our small living room and our quiet hallway. She joined a club. She stayed late. She laughed at jokes I did not understand. She began to carry her phone like a small secret in her palm. When I asked her about her day, she said, "Fine," and her eyes slid away. The first sign that something had shifted came in small things. She forgot to pray on time. She wore her scarf looser, then not at all when going out, then sometimes not even at home. She said she felt watched, judged, even when no one was looking. She said the school made her feel strange when she wore it. I wanted to say, "Wear it for God, not for people." I did say it, but my words did not land where I wanted them to. They fell at her feet like a scarf she did not want to pick up. One evening, I found a letter on the kitchen table. It was from her teacher, praising her for a poem she wrote. I read it, and my heart swelled. The poem spoke of a river and a stone, and a girl who wanted to be flowing and also safe. I saw my daughter in that poem. I did not know that a poem could make me both proud and afraid. A few days later, she showed me a video on her phone, a speech she made at school. Her voice was strong. She spoke about choices. I clapped. I said, "Mashallah." I meant it. But somewhere inside me, A small bell rang a warning. When Layla turned 17, she asked me if she could go on a school trip. It was overnight. I did not like the idea. I imagined too many dangers. I said no at first. She cried. I felt old and hard. Then I remembered how my mother had trusted me in small ways at that age. I said yes, with conditions. Call me at night. Share the teacher's number. She agreed. She went. She came back glowing with stories about new places and new people. One name kept floating to the top of her stories: Alex. I did not think much of it at first. She said Alex was in her class. He liked books and quiet mornings. He helped her carry a heavy bag. He made her laugh. She said he was kind. Kindness is a word that always disarms me, but I also felt a small fear take my chair at the table. I asked, "Is he Muslim?" She hesitated. Just a second. That second felt like a door closing in my heart. "No," she said. "But he is a good person," I told her. "We can be kind to everyone. We can learn from everyone. But when it comes to the heart, we must be careful." She nodded. She said, "Don't worry, Mama." That is what children say when they know we are worrying with all our bones. Still, I chose trust. I chose to believe this was just friendship. I prayed for her. I tucked her blanket around her feet when she fell asleep on the couch. I told myself, she knows who she is. She knows our path. The seasons turned. The city changed its coat from rain to sun and back again. Layla grew more beautiful in a way that was not only about her face. She had a mind that shone. Sometimes she would still sit with me and rest her head on my shoulder while I read from the Quran. She would ask, "What does this part mean?" I would tell her, in simple words, about trust and mercy. Those were the evenings when I slept well. Those were the evenings when I thought, we will be okay. But the pull of another life had already begun. I noticed that she texted late into the night, her face lit blue by the screen. Her laughter became an echo from another room. Her long talks with Sarah became shorter. Her talks with Alex became longer. When she looked at her phone, her eyes softened. When she looked at me, sometimes there was a small wall. She did not put it there to hurt me. She put it there to protect a new world she was building. I tried to keep our home steady. I kept the meals warm and simple. Lentil soup, rice with saffron, tea with cardamom and clove. I touched the tassels of my prayer beads and whispered names of God. I reminded myself that every soul belongs to Allah. I remembered the words of our Prophet, peace be upon him, about kindness and wisdom. I reminded myself that love for a child is also a test. It tests our patience. It tests our trust in Qadr, the plan we cannot always see. There were good days. Layla and I would go to the market together. We would talk about the fruits, the best way to pick a melon. We would laugh about the way the seller called everyone sister. She would slip her arm into mine. I would think, see, we are fine. This is just a phase. There were also hard days. She would come home late and tired. She would snap at me when I asked small questions. She would say, "I'm not a child." I would feel my heart tighten. I would go to my room, sit on the edge of my bed, and let the tears come like rain from a small cloud. In those moments, I thought of Farid. I thought of the way he would lift my worry with a joke. I would picture him telling me to breathe, to trust, to wait. Sometimes I felt angry at him for leaving me to do this alone. Then I would feel ashamed for thinking that way. Then I would forgive myself. I would make wudu, wash my face, my hands, my heart, and stand to pray. The floor under my feet felt like a friend. The whisper of my dress against my legs was the sound of calm. My prayer was a shelter. My prayer was a bridge over my fear. One Friday, After prayer at the small mosque, I found two older women talking near the door. They were kind women. They liked to ask questions. They liked to know. One of them said, "We saw Layla with a boy at the cafe near the park." She smiled the way people smile when they are not sure if they should smile. My face stayed calm. My stomach turned. I said, "Thank you," and then I prayed again, silently, because sometimes prayer is the only way to keep from saying the wrong thing. That evening, I asked Layla, "How is school?" She shrugged. I asked, "Did you go to the cafe by the park?" She nodded. I asked, "Alone?" She hesitated, then said, "With friends." I did not like the taste of that answer. I did not want to become a spy in my own house. I knew that trust is a rope. Pull too hard, and it breaks. Hold too loose, and it slips. I tried to find a gentle grip. I said, "I want to understand. I want to help you make wise choices." She said, "I know." But the words felt like a door closing, again, with a soft click. When Layla finished high school, we celebrated. I cooked her favorite food. The house smelled like cumin and onions browning in the pan. The table was full. My sons came with gifts. We played her favorite songs, the ones that made her dance around the living room as a little girl. She hugged me and said, "Thank you, Mama, for everything." I held her and felt her bones under my hands. I felt how strong and how fragile we both were. I went to bed that night with joy in my chest. I woke up the next morning with a knot of worry. Big change was coming. College, new friends, new choices, a new kind of freedom. She chose a university not too far from home, but far enough to feel like another world. On the first day, I ironed her clothes like I did when she was 10. She laughed and said I was old-fashioned. I said I liked my old-fashioned very much. We took the bus together. We walked through gates that felt big. The halls smelled like paper and coffee. I watched her face glow with excitement. I remembered my own first day of anything new, the mix of fear and joy, like walking into cold water on a hot day. At the door of her lecture hall, I kissed her forehead. I said, "Remember who you are." She said, "I will." The first month at university changed our rhythm. Layla's world filled with names and classes and deadlines. She was busy. She was happy. She was tired. She still came home to me each day, but she brought with her a wind from outside, new words, new views, new ways to look at old things. We debated small topics at dinner. We learned how to end those talks with respect. But sometimes the topic was not small. Sometimes it was about who we were and what we believed. Those nights, we left the table in silence, like two people walking away from a river they could not cross. One rainy evening, I heard her on the phone in the hallway. She spoke softly. She said the name Alex. She laughed, that small laugh that comes from the stomach, the one I knew as her sweet laugh, reserved for people who made her feel safe and seen. I stood very still. I did not move until she hung up and wiped her eyes, like someone who had been happy and then remembered they might be in trouble. I stepped forward and hugged her. She did not pull away. I thought, she is my daughter. I must be her home even if she chooses a path I do not like. I began to make dua for Alex too. It may sound strange, but it is true. In the night, when I raised my hands, I asked Allah to guide Layla, and I asked Allah to guide him. I said, "If this is not good, take her away from it gently, with a lesson that does not break her. If it is a test, give me patience. If it is a door, show me how to stand without blocking it and without leaving her behind." This is what faith felt like to me then, not a straight road, but a rope I held and a whisper I followed. If I tell you I was always calm, I would not be honest. I had days of anger. I had moments where I snapped. One day, I told her, "Our family follows this way. you know this. You are breaking my heart." She looked at me, eyes full of tears, and said, "I am trying not to break it, Mama. But if I cannot be honest, then I am already breaking it." Her words stayed with me like a small light. They hurt. They also told me she trusted me with her truth. I had asked for honesty. I could not punish it now. There is a small shelf near my window. On it is a picture of Layla as a child, sitting on a prayer mat, hands up, eyes focused. When things were hard, I would take that frame and sit with it. I would remember the way she asked me about God when she was 6. "Where is he?" she said, and I told her, "Closer to you than your vein." I would close my eyes and say, "He is still close to her. Even if I cannot see it, even if she walks far, he is near." With time, I learned to speak less and listen more. When she came home sad, I made tea and put my hand on her head. When she came home excited, I smiled and asked to hear every detail. I tried to remember that my job was to be a door that stayed open. My fear did not go away. It simply learned to sit in the corner instead of at the head of the table. I had to make peace with not being able to control everything. This is a hard lesson for a mother. Harder still when she has walked years alone and made control into a kind of blanket. Then came the day in the kitchen, the steam from the kettle, the cup that almost broke, the sentence that split our home into before and after. "Mama," she said, "I love him. I can't live a double life anymore." She was 20, I was 62. Life had given me wisdom, but even wisdom trembles when a child holds her heart in her hands and shows it to you. I looked at her. I saw the little girl and the grown woman at the same time. I saw my own face in hers. I also saw a new person standing before me, asking for permission to be herself, even if that self walked away from our way. I did not scream. I did not accuse. I did not make her choose between us. I am not saying I am strong. I am saying Allah held me in His mercy in that moment. I said, "Sit, tell me everything." And she did. She told me how their friendship grew from study sessions to long walks. She told me how he asked questions with respect when she spoke about our faith. She told me how she felt seen, not judged. She told me how she started to drift from prayer because she felt she was lying praying in one room and not living it in another. She told me she did not know if she believed the way she used to, or if she had ever believed in the same way I did. Her words were many, my answers were few. I said, "I love you." I said, "I am hurting." I said, "I will pray." I said, "Do not cut me out of your life." She held my hand. She said, "I would never." I do not know how long we sat there, the tea growing cold, the sun slipping away from the window. I only know that when she stood up and left the room, the air felt different, like the house had sighed and decided to lean a little. That night I could not sleep. I lay in bed and watched the shadow of the curtain on the wall. I listened to the fridge hum. I heard the rain start and stop. I thought of the girl who used to fall asleep on my chest. I thought of the woman who would soon say her vows in a hall I did not know. I thought of the line I had always believed in, that a Muslim woman marries a Muslim man, that a home must share the same prayer. The line felt clear. My daughter's path cut across it. I thought, what do I do now? Do I stand on the line and lose her? Do I step off the line and lose myself? I whispered, "Allah, guide me." The words were simple, the need was not. But in that whisper, I felt a small peace come, like a blanket over my shoulders. I remembered the story of mothers who faced impossible choices. I remembered that love is a test and also a gift. I told myself, do not act from fear, do not speak from pride, hold the rope, Wait for the morning. The morning did come, it always does. And with it, a new day that would ask more from me than any day before. The morning after that talk, I woke before the sun. The sky was the color of milk. I made wudu, washing my face and hands, letting the cool water remind me to be calm. I stood on the prayer rug and whispered verses I have known for more years than I can count. My voice was soft. My heart was loud. When I finished, I sat on the edge of my bed and looked at the door. For a moment, I wished it would open and Layla would be 6 again, hair messy, cheeks warm, asking for breakfast. But the door stayed closed. I wrapped my scarf tighter around my shoulders, and went to the kitchen. The kettle clicked. The steam rose. The old ritual helped me remember who I was. Layla woke late. She came to the kitchen, eyes puffy, hair in a loose tie. She reached for a glass of water before she looked at me. When she did, I saw a mix of peace and fear in her face. She said, "Good morning, Mama," I said. "Good morning, my heart." My voice was steady. My hands, not so much. I placed tea in front of her. I put the honey on the table. I sat across from her and folded my hands. "I want to meet him," I said. She blinked. She stared at the table, then at me. She nodded, slowly. "He will be nervous," she said. "Good," I said. We both laughed, a small, thin laugh that broke the heavy air for a second. We chose a day. We chose a place. I suggested our home. She asked if we could meet outside first. I said okay. We picked a small cafe near the park where the swings creaked. I ironed my scarf that morning. I put on my good coat. I felt like I was going for a job interview, only the job was the safety of my child's heart. The cafe smelled like fresh bread and coffee. The bell on the door rang when I walked in. He was already there with Layla. He stood quickly when he saw me. He had kind eyes. He held his hands together in front of him, like he did not know what to do with them. He said, "Mrs. Farid?" I did not correct him to Salma. I wanted him to feel my age. "Alex," I said. I looked at him for a long second. I looked at my daughter. She looked back at me, a little pleading in her eyes. We sat. He offered to pay for our drinks. I let him. He asked what I would like. I said, "Black tea." He smiled at the simple choice. I saw him relax. I did not relax, but I softened my eyes. We spoke like careful dancers. He told me about his studies, his work, his mother who bakes too much bread because she likes to feed people. He told me about how he grew up with a lot of questions. He did not make big promises. He did not speak too fast. He did not insult what he did not understand. He said, "I know your faith is important to you and to Layla. I respect that." He glanced at her. She squeezed his hand under the table and then took it away. I asked him the question I had to ask. "Do you plan to become Muslim?" He took a breath. He looked down at his cup. He said, "I am learning. I am reading. I like many things about it. The ideas of mercy, charity, patience. I do not want to lie to you. I am not ready to say I believe, not yet. I don't want to say it for the wrong reasons." I watched him as he spoke. His honesty was a stone and a pillow. It hurt, and it comforted me at the same time. I said, "You understand our rules about marriage?" He nodded. "I know it is not allowed for a Muslim woman to marry a non-Muslim man," he said, carefully. He looked at Layla, then at me. I know this is hard for you." He did not speak like a man who thought he could charm me. He spoke like a man who knew he was asking for something big. I appreciated that. It did not make me feel any less afraid. We left the cafe with the winter sun low in the sky. On the sidewalk, Layla hugged me. I hugged her back. I said nothing more. There are times to speak, there are times to let silence do the work. My silence did not mean acceptance. It meant I was taking my ache to my prayer mat first. That week, I went to the mosque to talk to Imam Yusuf. He is a gentle man with a beard that is more white than black now. He always listens before he gives advice. I told him everything. I watched his face. He did not judge me. He did not rush. He nodded and said, "Allah make it easy for you," more than once. He said, "Hold your daughter close. Do not push her away. Be clear about the limits. Be clear about the rules. But use soft words. Keep the door open. If there is guidance to come, it will come through that door." He spoke of sabr, patience. He spoke of dua, prayer. He reminded me of the story of a mother who waited years for a child, and then when she had him, she had to trust Allah with him again and again. "Your love is big," he said. "Let it be a mercy, not a weapon." I held those words like a small, warm stone in my hand. I left the mosque with my heart a little steadier. At home, I tried to shape the house with that mercy. I made space for honesty. I made space for questions. I also made space for the truth I could not bend. One evening, I sat with Layla at the table. The light was soft. The sound of traffic hummed far away. I said, "I will not pretend our rule is not our rule. I will not tell you it is okay when it is not. But I will not turn my back on you. I will not shut the door." She reached for my hand. Her fingers were cool. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. I said, "You will not lose me. Even when I am angry, even when I am sad, I am your mother." Tears came to her eyes. They came to mine, too. We sat and cried in the quiet. That was our prayer that night. Not everyone in our family liked my soft way. My oldest son, Kareem, came by one Saturday with a face full of thunder. He paced my living room and spoke with his hands. "This is not acceptable," he said. "Layla knows better. We need to stop this now." He wanted to talk to Alex himself. He wanted to talk loud. I made him sit. I put tea in his hands. He did not want tea. He took it anyway. He muttered, then glanced at me, then drank. I told him, "If you go in like fire, you will only burn what is left," he said. "So we do nothing?" I shook my head. "We pray. We speak. We set boundaries. We do not close the door." He shook his head hard. He did not agree. He loved his sister in a way that used force. I loved her in a way that used walls that could bend. Both of us were afraid. He went to Layla. He tried to be calm. He lasted 5 minutes. The voices rose. The words got sharp. He said, "You are leaving your faith," she said. "I am leaving your control," he said. "This is shameful," she said. "What is shameful is not being allowed to be honest." I stepped between them. I held up my hand. I said, "Stop." My voice was low, but it cut through the noise. They stopped. We stood in a small triangle of pain, 3 points, same shape, different angles. Kareem left with a tight jaw. Layla went to her room with a face full of tears. I stood in the hallway, alone, holding the door frame. I felt like the house had quietly split in two. I leaned my head against the wood and let a few tears fall. Then I went to make wudu. There are moments when water is the only thing that holds me together. Words spread in small circles, as it always does. People meant well and also made it worse. A neighbor came to the door to return a dish. She had heard something. She told me, "I will keep you in my prayers." She also said, "You must be firm." I nodded. Later, I sat on the couch and turned the radio off so I could hear my own breath. I did not have room for other people's voices. Layla and Alex kept seeing each other. Sometimes she told me where she was going. Sometimes she did not. I decided not to follow her like a shadow. I decided not to interrogate her like a police officer. I told her, "Tell me enough to keep me calm." She tried. She did not always succeed. One night she came home late. Her cheeks were cold. She stood by the door and took off her shoes slowly. "We watched a movie," she said. I said, "Okay." My heart did not say okay. It beat hard against my ribs. Ramadan came. It is my favorite time of year. The air seems different. The house feels like a soft box filled with light. Layla tried to fast. Some days she did. Some days she did not. She helped me cut fruit for iftar. She laughed when the oil popped in the pan. She sat next to me at sunset and took the first sweet date, eyes closed like always. Later, she went to her room and closed the door. I stood at the door of my room and wished I could tell her that in these nights, the doors of heaven feel open. But I understood that her doors felt shut. Tarawih at the mosque was beautiful that year. The recitation was slow and rich. I stood in the back and tasted every word. In the car home, I wanted to talk about the verses. I wanted to share the meaning. But Layla sat with her face turned to the window. The streetlights passed across her like stripes of gold. She was far away in her mind. I let the silence ride with us. I trusted that even silence can carry mercy. After Eid, Layla asked if I would meet Alex's mother. "She wants to meet you," she said. "She is sweet. She bakes a lot." I smiled, because baking is a kind of love I understand. I said yes. We chose a Saturday afternoon. I wore my neat scarf and brought a small box of dates. We met at their house, which smelled like butter and vanilla. Alex's mother was warm. She hugged me with open arms. She talked too much, the way kind people do when they are nervous. She said, "We want them to be happy. We don't mind any traditions you have. We are open." She meant well, but her words did not reach the part of me that was aching. I did not need open. I needed shared belief. I needed shared prayer. We stood in a kitchen full of sugar and salt, and still, I tasted only the hard truth. We sat at the table. We spoke like neighbors who want to be friends but are not sure of the same map. She asked about my family. She told me about theirs. She showed me pictures on the wall. Alex looked at Layla as if she were light in a dark room. He brought tea. He listened when I spoke. He did not interrupt. He had the manners of a person who was raised to be good. That made everything harder. Monsters are easy to say no to. Gentlemen are not. In the car after, Layla asked, "What do you think?" I looked out of the window at a tree bending in the wind. I said, "He is kind. His mother is kind." She did not ask me the rest, because she knew it already. Kind is not the same as right. Love is not enough to bridge every gap. My silence said what my words could not. I kept making dua for a door that would open on our side. One morning, I told Layla, "Maybe he can visit the mosque, speak to the imam, ask his questions." She agreed. She wanted me to see that she was trying. Alex agreed too. He came and sat with Imam Yusuf one afternoon. I waited in the women's hall and watched through the door. Their heads bent toward each other. Their voices were low. It was a calm scene. I wanted to tie my hope to it like a small boat to a dock. After, Alex came to me. He said, "Thank you for arranging this." His face was thoughtful. He said, "I like your imam. He is a wise man." I still have questions. He smiled, sad and honest. "I am not ready to say I believe." He said it like a person telling a truth that will hurt someone they care about. It did hurt, but I also saw a kind of fairness in his eyes. I would rather have an honest no than a false yes. That night, I cried on my prayer rug. I kept my voice very quiet. I did not want Layla to hear me through the wall. I told Allah everything. I said, "You gave me this child. You gave me this love. You gave me this test. You know the map better than I do. Help me keep my heart soft. Help me hold the rope of patience. Help me not to say words that I cannot take back." I cried until my face was hot and my eyes were swollen. Then I washed my face and went to bed. Sleep came like a slow wave. The months turned. Layla finished her second year at university. She got a job at a small bookstore. She liked the smell of paper and coffee. Alex would pick her up sometimes after her shift. I would watch from the window without moving the curtain. I saw the way he looked at her. I remembered the way Fareed used to look at me when we were new. It is a strange thing to recognize yourself in your child's happiness and still wish it were a different shape. Sarah, her old friend, came by less. The times she did, they sat close and talked in clipped sentences, like people who were walking on stones in a river, trying not to fall. Sarah wore her scarf wrapped tight. She prayed on the rug without missing a step. She hugged me and kissed my hand. She hugged Layla and told her jokes. When she left, the house felt a little steadier for an hour. Then it wobbled again. One evening, after a long day, I found an envelope under my door. Layla had slipped it there and gone to her room. I opened it at the kitchen table. It was a letter. Her handwriting was neat. She wrote, "Mama, I am trying to be honest with you. I do not want to hurt you. I know this is not the life you planned for me. I know I am choosing something you think is wrong. I still want you in my life. I still want your blessing." The word blessing made my throat close. She wrote about my cooking and my stories. She wrote about our house and how safe it made her feel. She wrote about how she felt like a different person now, like she had outgrown a dress that used to fit. I wrote back. I said, "My daughter, I hear you. I love you. I will not pretend that my heart is not hurting. It is. But I am your mother before anything else. I want to walk this road with you. I want to sit in your kitchen one day and hold your baby. I want to be the phone call you make when you need help. I will still remind you of your faith. I will still pray for you in every prayer. That is my job. I will not give it up." I left the letter on her pillow. She came to me in the night and hugged me so tight that I had to sit down. We cried on the couch until our eyes were dry. Some days were soft like that. Some days were hard like stone. There was a Sunday when my sons both came over and tried to stage a small intervention. They spoke with big words and big voices. Layla listened with her arms crossed. The room felt like it was buzzing with fear. At one point, I slapped the table with my hand, not hard, but enough to make the cups jump. I said, "Stop." I said, "If you make her choose, she will not choose us. If you push her out, you will regret it for the rest of your life." My sons sat back. Silence fell like a blanket that was not warm. After they left, I told Layla, "Your brothers love you. They are clumsy with it." She nodded. She understood. She was clumsy with it too. So was I. Love can make fools of us when we are scared. Summer came. The air was heavy. The nights were long. Layla started to sleep at Alex's apartment sometimes. She told me she was staying at a friend's. I knew the truth. She knew that I knew. We did not say it. One afternoon, she came home with the smell of a different laundry soap on her clothes. She looked at me and looked away. The truth sat on the couch between us. I wanted to throw it out the window. Instead, I took a deep breath and asked her if she was hungry. I cooked. We ate in quiet. Sometimes a full stomach is the only bridge we have. I tried to talk to Allah more than I talked to people. I did not stop going to the mosque, but I stopped lingering near the door where the talk was hottest. I sat on the carpet and let my forehead touch the cloth a little longer. Some women hugged me and said nothing. That was the kindest help. Some women asked questions that were not questions. "Have you thought of sending her away?" one asked. I smiled in a way that closed the subject. I went home and watered my plants. Then came a small moment that felt big. Layla brought Alex to our home for dinner. She asked me first. She said, "Only if you are okay." I said yes. I said, "I want to see how he listens in a house like ours." I set the table with my good plates, the ones with the blue flowers. I cooked rice and lamb with spices that filled every corner of the apartment. I wore a dress that made me feel like a woman who knows who she is. Alex arrived with flowers and took off his shoes without being asked. He admired the pictures on the wall. He asked me about Farid when he saw his photo. I told him a few stories, small ones, kind ones. He laughed at the right times. He listened when I spoke. He ate what I cooked with grateful sounds. He thanked me more than once. After dessert, we sat in the living room with tea. I excused myself to pray. I invited Layla to join me. She hesitated. She shook her head. My heart pinched. I went to my room and closed the door. I prayed long, not to show Alex anything, not to teach a lesson, but because I needed to. When I returned, they were talking about a film they both liked. They were both smiling. It was a simple scene. It was also a scene that told me the truth. Our lives were two roads running side by side but not touching. One day they would have to cross or one would end. Weeks later, on a rainy day, Layla came home with a new quiet on her face. She sat me down on the kubling couch. She took my hand and held it with both of hers. "Mama," she said, "we are engaged." The room seemed to tilt. I blinked. She was looking at me like a person who had learned to swim, was asking me to watch them jump into a deep pool. I said, "How?" She said, "He asked." I said yes. She lowered her eyes. "I know what this means for you. I know." She said they wanted a small civil ceremony. She said they would have a simple party. She said she wanted me there. I could feel my pulse in my wrists. I could feel my breath leaving me. I said, "Can you wait?" She said, "We have waited." I said, "Can you think again?" She said, "I have thought again and again, Mama." I asked her if she planned to come back to prayer. She looked away. She whispered, "I don't know. I don't want to lie to you." I could hear the rain against the window. I wished it could wash this moment clean. It did not. The days after that were a blur of small decisions and big feelings. I called Imam Yusuf. He listened. He told me to attend if I could, to keep the door open, to set my own limits. "Do not sign anything," he said. "Do not say words you do not mean, but be there. If she walks into a room and you are not there, she will remember the empty chair forever." His words pressed into my heart like a seal. I did istikhara that night, the prayer of seeking guidance. I asked for a heart that could see the path. I fell asleep on my prayer mat and dreamed of a road with 2 lanes and a row of trees in the middle. I walked along the trees. I could hear cars on both sides. I could not cross. I just kept walking. When I woke, I took it as a sign to keep walking with patience, not to leap and not to stop. The next day, I took out a box of cloth from the top of my closet. It held a blanket I had started when Layla was a baby and never finished when life got busy. The colors were soft. The pattern was simple. I decided to finish it. My fingers moved, slowly, stitch by stitch. Each stitch was a prayer. Each stitch was a promise that I would not cut her off. That blanket would be my gift at a wedding I did not want. As the date came closer, friends and family took positions. Kareem told me he would not attend. He said he could not watch. My younger son, Yasin looked torn. He held his head in his hands and said, "Mama, what do we do?" I told him, "You listen to your heart and to Allah. You do not need to agree with me. You need to live with your own choices." He decided to come with me for the first part, to sit in the back, to leave early. He said, "I will keep my eyes on you." I bought a dress that was simple and elegant, dark blue, long sleeves. I ironed it careful, thinking of all the times I ironed school uniforms and work shirts and scarves for prayers. This ironed dress was for a different kind of day. I placed the finished blanket in a white bag. I tucked a small note in the folds. "For warmth when life is cold. From Mama." The night before the ceremony, Layla came to my room and lay on my bed with her head in my lap, like she did when she was 10. I stroked her hair. She sighed. She said, "I know this is not easy for you." I said, "It is not." She said, "Please don't hate me." I closed my eyes. "My daughter," I said, "I cannot hate you. I can only be sad and love you at the same time." She turned her face into my dress and let her tears come. I let mine come too. The room was dark but not cold. We were in the middle of a storm, holding on to each other. A thought came to me then, clear and steady. I realized that love had brought us both to a place where rules alone could not carry us. We needed wisdom, patience, and mercy in equal measure. I did not know if I had enough. I asked Allah to give me more than I owned. The hall was small and bright, a row of chairs lined up like soldiers. Flowers in jars, a table at the front with a book and a pen. People gathered with smiles and chatter. The sound of soft music floated from a speaker in the corner. My dress felt heavy. The room felt light. I held the white bag with the blanket and the note. I felt like I was carrying a piece of home into a place that was not my home. Yasin walked with me. He kept close. He greeted people politely and then sat in the back row, as he promised. I sat next to him. My hands were still. My heart was not. I watched the door. I thought of all the doors in our life. The door of the hospital where she was born. The door of the school on her first day. The door of the mosque. The door of this hall. Each door a new world. Then she appeared. My girl. My woman. Layla walked in wearing a simple white dress, her hair loose, a small flower tucked behind her ear. She was glowing in the way I had seen her glow as a child when she came home with a star sticker on her homework. Happiness does that to a face. It also breaks a mother's heart when the source of the shine is a place she cannot follow. Alex stood at the front, his suit neat, his tie a soft gray. When he saw her, his face softened in a way that told me that love had taught him many things too. He took her hands when she reached him. They stood shoulder to shoulder. The officiant spoke. The words were plain, legal, the kind of words that bind and are also empty of prayer. I listened, and my chest ached. The room clapped when they said their vows. I did not clap. I held my hands together in my lap. I whispered, "Allah, hold my daughter. Allah, be with her when I am not. Allah, put a seed of light in her heart that no wind can blow out." The words came without me planning them. They came from a place deeper than hurt. After, there were small cakes and sparkling drinks and laughter. People hugged. Congratulations flew like small birds. I stood near the edge, holding my bag, trying not to look like a statue. Layla came to me. Her eyes searched mine. I saw fear in them, and hope, and a little girl who still wanted her mother's approval. She said, "Mama." The word held more than its letters could carry. I took her face in my hands. Her skin was warm. I kissed her forehead. I said, "I am here." It was not a blessing for the act. It was a blessing for the girl. She knew the difference. Tears filled her eyes. She pressed her forehead to my shoulder and breathed me in like a scent from childhood. I held her and whispered, "May Allah guide you always. May He protect you. May He bring you back to Him in the best way." Alex approached, hesitant. "Thank you for coming," he said. His voice was small. He looked like a boy in that moment, not a man. I nodded. "Take care of her," I said. He said, "I will." The words were a promise he believed. I hoped he would keep it, even if it could not fix what hurt. I gave Layla the white bag. She opened it and pulled out the blanket. Her fingers ran over the stitches. She looked at me with that face that held. 20 years of being my daughter," she whispered. "Thank you." She understood what it meant. It meant I was not leaving. It meant my love was wrapped around her, even in a house where the prayer might be silent. For a moment, I could not breathe. The room grew loud. Laughter sounded like water. Plates clinked. Someone's perfume floated by, sweet and strong. I excused myself and found the restroom. It was empty. The light was too bright. I locked the door and leaned on the sink. I looked at my face in the mirror. It was the face of a woman who had stayed calm through a small storm and was now letting it hit her. I turned on the tap and washed my face with cool water, the way I do before prayer. I pressed the towel to my cheeks. I whispered, "Ya Allah, give me patience, give me softness. Do not let my tongue harm. Let my presence be a mercy." I stayed there until my breath found its rhythm again. I thought of the sound of the adhan in my childhood, the call to prayer calling me home, always. I asked Allah to let that call still reach my daughter, even if she did not listen now. When I came back, I saw Alex's mother waving me over with bright eyes. She wanted a picture. She wanted one of all of us together. I stood next to Layla. The camera clicked. I smiled in a small way. My smile was not joy, but it was not a lie. It was the smile of a mother doing what she can. As the gathering thinned, I told Yasin I was ready to go. He nodded. He stood and hugged his sister. His hug was careful, as if he was afraid he would break if he held too tight. He whispered something in her ear. She nodded. Tears shone. We said goodbye. We walked out into the late afternoon light that felt too bright for our mood. At home, the apartment felt like a shell after a storm. Everything was in its place. Nothing was the same. The sun threw a wide square of light on the floor. I sat in the chair by the window. I placed my hands in my lap. For a while, I did not move. Then I stood, took off my dress, put on my house clothes, and spread the prayer rug on the floor. I stood and raised my hands. My lips moved. My mind did not have words. My heart did. I prayed until the light moved across the carpet and climbed up the wall. I prayed until the ache in my chest softened to a dull throb. I prayed until I felt empty and full at the same time. When I finished, I sat on the rug. I reached for my prayer beads. I whispered, "Alhamdulillah, praise," even when my lips trembled. Gratitude is not always for what we want. Sometimes it is for the strength to live with what we did not choose. In the days that followed, people asked how it went. I did not tell them much. I did not want to turn my daughter's life into a story for their teacups. I told a few close friends. I told them I went. I told them I came home and prayed. I told them I did not sign anything. I told them my door stayed open. Some nodded. Some frowned. I learned to live with their faces. A week later, Layla came over alone. She looked tired. She took off her shoes slowly. She set down her bag as if it was heavy with more than books. I made tea. We sat at the table in the kitchen. The kettle hissed behind me like a snake. The clock ticked. The sound of the street drifted in through the small gap in the window. She did not talk right away. She looked at her hands. She traced the lines on her palm with her finger. Then, with a voice that was softer than I have ever heard from her, she said, "Mama, I need to tell you something." I felt the floor under my feet like a friend. I braced myself without making my body stiff. I said, "I am listening." She took a breath. She looked at me finally. Her eyes were wet but steady. She said, "I don't think I am Muslim anymore." The words moved through the air like a slow bird that had to land somewhere. They landed between us. They sat there. They looked at me. She kept talking, slow, careful. "I have been feeling this for a while. I didn't want to say it because I knew it would hurt you. I think I stopped believing, really believing, some time ago. I tried to make it fit. I tried to pray even when I felt like I was saying words that didn't belong to me anymore. I felt like I was lying to you and to myself. I did not speak. If I spoke, I would cry too soon. I did not want my crying to be a wall that kept her words from finishing their life." She continued, "I still believe in being good. I still believe in kindness, in mercy, in being honest. I believe in something bigger than me, maybe. But I don't know if I can use the words you taught me anymore. I am so sorry." She put her hands flat on the table, as if to say, "I am not hiding from you. I am here." I looked at my daughter, the same girl who once asked me to tie her shoe, the same young woman who held my hand in the hospital when my blood pressure was high, the same person who made me soup when I had a cold, the person who loved and laughed and made mistakes and tried again. The labels in my head fell one by one. The love stayed. The love did not move. I reached across the table and put my hand on hers. Her skin was cool and soft. My hand was warm. I felt our pulse moving under our skin like the same river flowing through two different banks. I said, with a voice that surprised me because it was steady, "Thank you for telling me the truth." Tears came to her eyes in a rush. "Mine too." I added, "I will always ask Allah to guide you. You cannot stop me from doing that." I tried to smile. It came out crooked. "And you cannot stop me from loving you." She let out a sound that was like a mix of a laugh and a sob. "I know," she said, pressing her lips together. "I knew you would say that. That is why I told you." I nodded. I was not calm inside. I was a storm. But I had learned how to hold a storm in a small bowl and not spill it over the person I love. She stayed for dinner. We ate rice and yogurt with cucumbers. We watched a comedy show on the small TV. We laughed at something silly. We washed dishes together. She wiped the counter. She put away the cups. Then she stood at the door with her bag on her shoulder. She kissed my cheek. She said, "Good night, Mama." I held her a second longer than usual. I smelled her hair. I let her go. When the door closed, the apartment sighed. I stood in the middle of the room and put my hand on my chest. I whispered, "Allah, this is bigger than me." The truth of that sentence filled the room. It did not crush me. It floated above me like a ceiling. I spread the prayer rug and sat, not standing, not kneeling, just sitting. I leaned my back against the couch. I looked at the pattern on the rug, the way the lines make a small mihrab, a small arrow pointing to the place of prayer. I looked at the arrow and thought, I will keep pointing. I will keep pointing even if her feet walk another way. That night I slept and woke in, small pieces. Dreams came and went. In one, I stood in a field and called Layla's name. I could hear her but could not see her. In another, I sat with my mother on a balcony, shelling peas into a metal bowl, the sound like small rain. She said, "Saber, my daughter." I said, "I have used it all." She smiled. There is always more when you ask the one who made it. In the morning, the first light came through the green curtains and painted the wall. I made tea. I sat with my cup and watched the steam rise. The house was quiet. The quiet had changed. It was not the quiet of waiting for a door to open. It was the quiet of knowing the door had opened and a child had walked through to another side. I realized then, with a pain that was also a strange kind of peace, that the story of my daughter and me had changed. It was not the story of me guiding her step by step. It was the story of me sitting on the porch of my heart, making the light warm, keeping the tea ready, singing the verses with my life, and trusting that light and warmth and love would call her back, if not to my exact path, then to the one who knows every path. I could not stop her. That truth hardened in me like clay that finally dries. It did not have the sharp edges it had at first. It had a shape. I could hold it. I could place it on the shelf of my soul. I could stand and still be her mother. The next morning, I woke before dawn. The apartment was quiet. The green curtains held a soft gray light. I made wudu and stood on my prayer rug. My voice was low. My heart spoke more than my tongue. After prayer, I wrote a small note to myself and stuck it on the fridge. It said, "Be gentle, set boundaries, keep the door open." I read it 3 times. I made tea and watched the steam curl. Even the steam looked like a prayer rising. By afternoon, I sent Layla a message. I wrote, "My love for you is not a question. My home is still your home. In my home, we keep it halal. No alcohol, no jokes about faith. We honor prayer times. If you visit, we will eat and talk and be together. I will not argue. I will not push. I will pray." She replied with a heart. Simple, brave, enough. A week later, she invited me to their apartment for dinner. I took a box of sweets and wore my neat scarf. The hallway smelled like dust and old paint. When she opened the door, I saw a small place, tidy and warm. Plants on the window ledge, books stacked in a corner, a soft rug under a small table. Alex cooked pasta with garlic and herbs. He said he learned the recipe from a friend. He handed me a glass of sparkling water and asked if the music was okay. He had chosen a quiet piano playlist. It was kind. I said it was nice. Layla set the table and placed a small jar of flowers in the center. She kept glancing at me. I kept smiling. After dinner, Layla showed me their bedroom, the bathroom, the small balcony where she liked to drink tea in the morning. In the hall closet, below a folded blanket, I saw her childhood prayer rug. It was tucked away, clean and careful. My hand reached for it without thinking. I touched the edge. I did not pull it out. I closed the door gently. On the way home, the bus moved slow through evening traffic. I watched people through the window. A man carried a child on his shoulders. 2 girls shared headphones and laughed. The world looked busy and ordinary. My heart felt heavy and holy at the same time. I whispered, "Alhamdulillah." Gratitude is a small light that keeps you from stumbling in the dark. Eid came with its quiet joy. I cooked as I always do, sweet rice, spiced lamb, a big fruit salad. I sent Layla a message the night before. "I will go to the mosque in the morning. Come after, if you like. We can eat together." She wrote back, "We will come." I felt a knot in my chest loosen a little. After prayer, the mosque buzzed with greetings. Women hugged me. Some asked about Layla. I smiled and said, "She will come for lunch." I kept my words like soft cloth, not sharp like knives. At home, I set the table with the blue flower plates. I placed a small bowl of dates near each plate. Layla and Alex arrived with a box of pastries. They said, "Eid Mubarak." Alex said it carefully, like he was stepping on stones in a river. He carried it well. We ate, and laughed at an old story about when Layla put salt instead of sugar in a cake. The room felt almost like the rooms I missed. Not the same, but warm. It was enough. Kareem did not come that day. He sent a short message to say Eid Mubarak to me and Yasin. I felt a pinch of pain. Later, I called him. I said, "Come by in the evening, if you can." He came with tired eyes. He sat in the living room and held his tea like it was holding his anger in place. I told him gently, "You can be firm in your belief and soft in your voice. Your sister needs your love, even if you disagree with her choices." He looked away. He took a breath. He nodded. "I miss her," he said, his voice tight. "Then show her that," I said. "Not your anger. You're missing." He rubbed his face with his hands and sighed like a change was starting. A few days later, he met Layla for a walk by the park. She told me after. She said they talked about football and work first. Then they talked about the real thing. He said, "I am mad. I am hurt. But I am your brother, and I am not going anywhere." She cried on a bench while the swings creaked. They did not fix everything that day, but they found a way to hold the rope from both sides. Nights had their own stories. One night, close to midnight, my phone lit up. Layla was calling. I answered with a whisper. "Mama?" she said, and I could hear the shake in her voice. We had a fight about money and about boundaries. I told him I don't want alcohol in the house. He said it is normal. I said for me it is not. We both got loud. "I don't like this, Mama." I listened. I breathed with her. I said, "Speak to him when both hearts are calm. Explain what is a rule for you and what is a comfort. Ask him to honor your red lines. Give him time to adjust. And listen when he tells you his. You are building a house. Houses take time." She sniffed and said, "Thank you." I said, "I love you." We hung up. I sat in the dark and asked Allah to make their home gentle, to keep her safe, to plant respect where desire is strong. I learned to speak less. I learned to wait for her to ask. I learned to give advice like a glass of water, not a river that could drown. When she did not ask, I prayed for her in secret. There is a sweetness in the secret prayer that I had not tasted this way before. It is a sweetness mixed with salt. It is strong. I also learned I needed a life beyond my worry. I went back to the women's circle at the mosque. I started a small class for girls on Saturday mornings to teach them how to read simple surahs and to talk about kindness. I cooked extra soup on Tuesdays and took a bowl to an elderly neighbor who lived alone. I watered my plants with care. I sowed small things. I read the Quran slowly, letting the words sit on my tongue like dates at iftar. One afternoon, I felt dizzy while standing in the kitchen. The room tilted for a second. I held the counter. I sat down and breathed slow. It passed. I checked my blood pressure later. It was a little high. I told Layla when she called that evening. I did not want to worry her. I said it like I was telling a small joke. Within an hour, the doorbell rang. Layla and Alex stood there with a bag of groceries and concern on their faces. "We brought soup and bread," Alex said, lifting the bag. He looked almost shy. He asked if he could help in the kitchen. I nodded and sat at the table while they moved around me. I watched him chop carrots, clumsy but trying. I watched Layla check on me every few minutes like a mother herself. After we ate, Alex pointed at the shelf where my Quran rested, covered in a simple cloth. He said, "May I ask you something?" I nodded. He asked about a verse he had heard somewhere, a line about burden and what we can bear. I smiled because I knew it by heart. Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear, I told him. I explained in simple words how it gave me strength on hard days. He listened, elbows on the table, hands folded, eyes soft. He said, "I like that." His voice was quiet. He added, almost to himself, "It sounds like mercy." I said, "It is mercy." He nodded. He did not argue. He did not announce anything. He just held the words for a while, like a warm stone in his palm. When he left, he said, "Thank you for dinner. Thank you for explaining." I said, "You are welcome." I closed the door and felt a small smile turn up at the corner of my mouth. Hope is not a plan. It is a light. Months passed, and then Layla came with news that turned my house into a soft river. She stood in the process, doorway with eyes shining, and said, "Mama, I am pregnant." The word felt like a dawn. I held her, and we both laughed and cried at once. I pressed my hands to her face and kissed her forehead again and again. I said, "Alhamdulillah." She said, "Alhamdulillah." Too. The word came easy to her tongue in that moment. I held it like a gift. We began to plan small things. I started knitting a tiny hat with the leftover yarn from the blanket I had made. I washed the old baby clothes I had kept for the day I would become a grandmother. I told Layla silly stories about her own first months. She rolled her eyes and smiled the way new mothers do when old mothers float in memories. In her 7th month, I went with her to a doctor visit. The room smelled like soap and something cold. The machine showed a moving shape on the screen, a small heartbeat, like a drum from far away. Layla held my hand, and I felt her grip tighten with wonder. Alex stood on the other side, eyes wide. He squeezed Layla's shoulder. He glanced at me and gave a nervous smile. In that room, 3 people held the same hope. That is a kind of prayer, too. The night she went into labor, she called me with a laugh that sounded like a tear. "It's time," she said. We went to the hospital under a sky with no moon. The halls shone in sharp white. The clock hands moved slow and fast at the same time. Pain came and went. Layla breathed with it, like a swimmer rides a wave. I stayed at her head. I whispered, "You are strong. You are brave." In my heart, I recited verses softly. I did not place the words on her. I placed them on the room. I asked Allah to make the path easy. When the baby arrived, the cry was thin and fierce. My chest broke open with a kind of love I had missed for years. They wrapped her and placed her in Layla's arms. The tiny face, the tiny hands, the fuzz of hair like soft smoke. Layla's tears fell on the blanket. Alex kissed Layla's forehead. He looked at the baby like she was a secret that had been kept for him his whole life. Layla looked at me. She said, "Do you want to hold her?" I nodded because words left me. I held the little bundle. She smelled like milk and morning. I placed my lips near her head and whispered, very softly, words of praise in Arabic. I did not make a show. I did not ask permission loudly. I just gave thanks to the one who made her. Then I kissed her again. They named her Maya, a name that was light on the tongue, a name that fit her small face. At home later, I laid the baby on the blanket I had made years before. The same stitches, the same softness, the same prayers woven in. I watched her sleep. Her chest rose and fell like a small boat on a calm lake. With Maya, our home took a new shape. Layla came often. She needed help and advice in sleep. I cooked more soups. I made tea and sat with her on the couch as she learned the rhythm of feeding and burping and rocking. Some afternoons, Maya slept on my chest while sunlight moved across the floor. In those hours, I felt an old peace arrive and settle like a gentle guest. I whispered prayers over her little head often, quiet, like a scent that lingers but does not take over the room. Alex visited and learned slowly. He held the baby awkwardly at first and then better. He changed diapers clumsily and then smoothly. He washed bottles. He used words like insha'Allah in small ways, sometimes by mistake. Once, when Maya sneezed, he said, Yarhamuk Allah, and then looked at me, surprised at his own mouth. I did not make a big moment. I just smiled and said, Ameen. We kept our boundaries clear. When Layla and Alex came to my home, they respected our ways. No alcohol, no loud talk of things that mock faith. When I visited theirs, I brought halal food and asked before I put on any audio of Quran. They listened. I listened. We made space. Respect is a kind of carpet you place on rough floors. Not every day was easy. Some days, Layla cried and said, I am so tired, I do not know who I am anymore. I held her hand and told her that motherhood is a new room. It is not the death of the old self. It is a house that grows. I told her what my mother told me. Sabr does not mean silence. It means steady. It means breathing and walking even when the road is long. She breathed. She walked. She learned. Kareem came to meet Maya with his wife. He looked nervous. He stood in the doorway like he was looking into a future he did not plan for. I placed Maya in his arms. The hard lines on his face softened. He whispered, She's so small. He kissed her forehead. He looked at Layla. He said, I love you. He said it like a fragile thing. She cried. He cried. His wife cried. I cried. The living room felt like the inside of a heart. Yasin became the kind of uncle who takes pictures and buys too many tiny socks. He babysat so Layla could nap. He laughed softly when Maya grabbed his nose. He sent me videos at night when I missed them. He kept the family stitched together with small kindnesses. That is a role God gives to some people. They are the threads. I found myself talking to Allah in new ways. My prayers were simple. Keep her safe. Keep us soft. Guide us in a way we do not expect. Sometimes I asked for big things. Sometimes I just sat and let the tears be my dua. Tears have a language God understands very well. One evening, when Maya was 3 months old, the power went out in my building. The apartment went dark. The window showed only the last bit of the sunset. I lit a candle and sat by the window. The silence felt like a friend. I thought of my mother's balcony and the metal bowl with peas. I thought of Farid's laugh. I thought of Layla's first steps and Layla's second first steps into a life I did not choose for her. I felt love rise in me like a tide, slow and strong. I said, Alhamdulillah. Sometimes gratitude is not for what is right. It is for the strength to stand inside what is hard and not become bitter. Later that week, I saw Layla tie a scarf loosely around her neck when she left my apartment. Not a hijab, just a scarf. The color was soft blue. She looked at herself in the mirror near the door and then looked away. I did not comment. In the car, she asked me how my class at the mosque was going. I told her about a girl who learned Al-Fatiha and cried because it felt like home in her mouth. Layla smiled with a sadness I knew. She said, I am happy for her. I nodded. I said, me too. I still invited Layla to Eid prayer, to community dinners, to charity days. Sometimes she came and brought pastries. Sometimes she sent a donation. Sometimes she said no. I learned to accept every answer without putting a weight on it. A no today is not a no forever. A yes tomorrow may not be a full return. Hearts move like clouds. You wait, you watch. You trust the one who moves them. I also wrote letters I did not send. I wrote to Layla as if she were 6 and as if she were 60. I wrote to Maya for a day when she would read. I wrote to Allah, though He does not need letters. I wrote because writing kept my tears from becoming stones in my chest. I kept the letters in a wooden box. Maybe one day they will find them and read them. Maybe they will not. It is enough that they helped me breathe. Once, Alex came to pick up Maya after I watched her for the afternoon. He saw my prayer rug laid out to dry in the sun. He touched the corner with his fingertips, as if asking it a question. He said, "I think about that word you taught me, sabr." He said it with care. I told him it means patience and also endurance. It means standing and not breaking. It means trusting that a seed will grow even when you do not see it yet. He nodded. He looked at Maya asleep on the couch. He said, "I want to be that kind of father." I said, "Insha'Allah." He smiled. The room held a quiet agreement. Time softened the sharpest edges of my fear. It did not erase them. It turned them into shapes I could hold. I did not stop believing what I believe. I did not change my view about marriage and faith. I did not pretend that all paths are the same. But I changed the way I stood beside my daughter. I stood like a lighthouse, not a wall. A lighthouse does not chase a ship. It does not argue with the storm. It shines. It points. It stays where it is and says, "Here is home." Some nights, I still cry. Some days my chest still aches when I pass a family in the mosque and I imagine what could have been. I let the ache pass through me like a small wind. I do not build a house for it. I build a house for gratitude instead. I fill it with tea and stories and prayer beads and small hands that reach for my glasses. One afternoon, as I rocked Maya to sleep, Layla came and sat on the floor by my feet. She leaned her head against my knee like she did when she was little. She said, without looking up, "I know you pray for me." I said, "Every day," she said. "Sometimes, when it is quiet and I am alone, I say the words with you in my head." She paused. "I don't know what I believe, Mama, but I feel something when I say them." I did not move. I did not cry. I said, "That is enough for today." In my chest, a flower opened. I do not know the end of our story. I do not need to know. I know the one who writes it. I know he is more merciful than I can imagine. I know he hears a mother's whisper in the night. I know he sees a daughter's steps even when they go far. I know he can bring hearts back in ways that do not embarrass them. I ask for that. I wait for that. I live meanwhile with love. When I look back, I see a straight line in my mind, like a rule drawn with a firm hand. A Muslim woman marries a Muslim man. A home shares one prayer. That line guided me for years. It still guides me. But life brought me a wave that crossed that line. I learned I cannot hold back every wave. I learned I am a mother, not a gate. I could not stop Layla. I could not wrap my rules around her and make them her skin. I could only wrap my love around her and make it her blanket. In that blanket, she still comes home. In that blanket, Maya sleeps on my chest. In that blanket, Alex sits at my table and says, "Inshallah," by accident. Maybe Allah wanted me to loosen my hands so I could lift them. Maybe he wanted me to lose what I thought was control so I could gain trust. Maybe he wanted me to learn that sabr is not a wall, but a river that moves with the rocks and still finds the sea. Maybe he wanted me to see that love without prayer is soft and empty, and prayer without love is hard and cold. Together, they are a home. I do not bless what I believe is wrong. I do not say it is all the same, but I bless my daughter every day. I bless her steps, her breath, her sleep. I say her name in my dua until the name is tears on my tongue. I ask for the best ending for her. I ask for mercy to cover what I cannot fix. If you are a mother like me, standing in a hallway between the child you raised and the adult they chose to be, I hold your hand. Breathe. Pray. Speak soft. Set clear lines in your home. Leave your door open. Keep a seat for them at your table. Trust that Allah's mercy can travel across any distance. Trust that no heart is out of reach. I am Salma. I am old now. My days are slower. My tea is sweeter. My prayers are simpler. I still fold Layla's blanket when she leaves and press my face to it for a second, like I am smelling a memory. I still say, Alhamdulillah, in the morning before my feet touch the floor. I still tell stories. This one is ours. It is not perfect. It is human. It is full of mistakes and forgiveness. It is full of tears and soft laughs. It is full of Allah's patience with me. One day, maybe, Layla will ask me to teach Maya a small surah. Maybe one day Alex will ask me to show him how to stand for prayer. Maybe they will never ask. I will still be here, shining, pointing, humming a verse under my breath while I cut apples for the baby. Peace is not the end of pain. It is the hand you hold while you walk through it. For me, that hand is prayer. If you are a parent, what boundary would you set with love? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to follow Voices of Fatima, like this video, and share it with someone who needs this message. Your support helps us tell more stories with heart.